Over the last few days in Canberra, lots of big branches have been falling off trees. Surely this is an issue. In fact, I believe that falling trees and falling branches are the environmental elephant in the room. My name is Andrew, and I look at trees all the time. I want to know what trees do and why they do it because I am a professional botanist. As summer in Canberra draws to a close, trees are dropping big branches all over the place. Every other street seems to have a large tree branch lying on the ground beside a tree. What's going on? Canberra hasn't had any cyclones or major thunderstorms in the last few days, so I think that something else is happening. Conditions have been very hot and still. Sometimes we get temperatures between 33 and 36 degrees. And in these conditions, we sometimes get sudden gusts of wind. So thermals are breaking loose and they can be quite intense. So I think the combination of trees that are prone to breakage and sudden wind stress due to thermals is what is breaking the branches off. I can tell the branches have freshly fallen because they still have very green leaves. And Canberra has really low humidity, so if the branches were there for very long, everything would have shriveled up. The branches that fall are a serious health hazard. I certainly wouldn't want to be hit by any of them, and I wouldn't want any of them falling on my car or anything else that I own. Tree branches falling down is something I've only ever seen in southern Australia. I've been warned about them. My father used to call them widow makers, and it's common knowledge not to set up your camp underneath a nice shady tree. When I look at the stumps left by fallen branches or look at the ends of the fallen branches, I really can't see what makes the tree branches drop off. Some have white fungus, others have wavy grain, but certainly from the outside there's not much sign that there's an inherent weakness in the tree and that the tree is going to shed a branch. Most of the trees that suffer from falling branches are eucalypts. That's pretty bad because eucalypt timber is really hard and really heavy. So any of the native trees, the native eucalypt trees are suspect, although some are better than others. Most of the eucalypts around Canberra are pretty bad for dropping branches. Possible exceptions are ironbarks and red ash, which is Eucalyptus polyadenus, but most of the street trees will drop branches. In contrast, most of the exotic trees, the oaks and ashes and even the conifers don't drop branches. So we're pretty lucky in Canberra that many streets are planted with exotic trees. So if exotic trees are the answer, why are so many eucalypt trees planted in Canberra? Well, Canberra is very precious about the natural environment, and Canberra needs to have an identity. And that identity is the native vegetation that existed here before the area was colonised. So, the authorities in Canberra plant native trees with a vengeance. Canberra was also designed by a landscape architect, and thermal comfort was a really important consideration in the days before air conditioning. In fact, Canberra is here because Albury suffered a heat wave when the delegates went to look at Albury as a potential capital site. Another factor which may not have existed when Canberra was originally designed was urban wildlife. So the cockatoos and other parrots have learnt to live within the urban forest. In fact, there's heaps of food here for them, and every parrot is raised in a tree hollow, and the parrots burrow into trees that make tree hollows. So I think the urban wildlife has created issues with the eucalypt trees that perhaps didn't exist before. There are not so many species of native tree to choose from here in Canberra or in southern Australia in general, especially trees which can put up with the periodic droughts that Canberra has. Perhaps the answer is to look further abroad and find eucalypts and other Australian trees which don't come from the Canberra region and that do not shed branches.